Hey, welcome to today's Smarketing Show. We're going to have a sales locker room chat here today, behind the scenes with Brad Rozmarynowski. Did I get that right, Brad?
You got it.
Hey, buddy. I've never seen the name so long. I hope if you were an athlete, you had big shoulders to get that all on your back. But Aaron speaks so highly of you as a sales guy that's growing up. I think you started selling copiers right through to IT services and have been a front runner and I think an icon in terms of, people in this industry. So we are looking forward to kind of peppering you with some questions today about, what you think's made you rather successful in the industry. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds like fun to me.
So why don't you walk us through? I mean, I'm meeting you kind of for the first time. I know you and Aaron had worked together in the past. If I'm watching or listening right now, are you okay just walking people through where you've come from before we kind of get your coaching on what you think's working now?
I can do that. So I grew up just south of the border in good old Wisconsin. And so from southeastern Wisconsin, my parents were small business owners when I was a kid. And I found myself at University of Wisconsin for school, was surrounded by a lot of Chicagoans and decided, well, if they can all go there, why can't I? So I moved to Chicago, and it was a classic American story. I didn't have a penny in my pocket. I was 30,000 in debt. I went into sales, and I went into sales because not because I'm a people person, but because it's an opportunity to take responsibility and control of your success. It's very easy to measure if you're good at it or not. And I kind of like that. I sort of like that do or die approach. And where the employer really has limited control over my income, which I needed because I was in debt and living in Chicago. So got into a company by the name of Icon Office Solutions. They don't exist anymore. Aaron would know them from his days.
Yeah.
He probably supplied them billions of dollars worth of equipment and supplies in the past.
Brad, I ran one of their core centers, so I know one name, buddy. I got you.
There you go.
I should have wore the t-shirt. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there for 2 years. I was hired by a gentleman by the name of Tom Peters. Tom and I then, after 2 years there, we went over to help Impact startup. So this would have been 99 to Chicago and 2001 over to Impact, which was a startup. And it was a similar market, what we were selling, but it was a young, gritty company. Everybody had to do everything. The brand was really impressive. The amount of spend on marketing, my first encounter with them in the field, so to speak, scared the daylights out of me. I'm like, I've never heard of these guys, but wow, are they good? Well, can't beat them, join them. And ended up being there for 23 years, was in tech sales the whole time. As the company evolved, I had to sort of reinvent myself, what I sell, who I approach, how I talk, scaling up into larger accounts, getting into more strategic conversations. In fact, with Aaron, he had an agency working underneath him that we were providing services to clients. And at a tactical level, I picked up very quickly on what marketing was, how did you use it, where did it go, what works, what doesn't work. What Aaron did was he spent a lot of time teaching me about the business side of marketing. So what's behind it? How do you play the long game? What kind of clients do we not want? So that I did a lot of absorbing, and I'm at a different stage in life. I got 3 kids, 12, 10, and 5. We're out in the burbs, and I think it was just my time. It was time to make a change. I had been at Impact. I'd done everything I can do there. I gave everything to that place. I learned a ton, had a great experience, but I wanted to focus my efforts on this one service that I really enjoy. Found an organization. Actually, they found me. And it turns out that there's a couple of people that I've known there, one of them for 15 years. And the other was my protege about 10 years ago. So that kind of helped. When you know somebody somewhere, it helps warm the relationship up. Very first day, I go downtown, and the chief revenue officer is like, "Hey, let's go grab lunch." We go grab lunch, and he's just like, "Listen, anything you need during your transition, da 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 da." And he's like, if you walk away from this conversation, one thing, just be yourself, be who you are, be yourself, and just let it all come to you. And I just thought that's a great way to start a relationship with my boss's boss. So
That's some great advice, Brad.
Yeah.
when as you were kind of embarking on your sales career, I know that you probably had opportunities to do different things, right? Like typically if you're a really great sales guy, then they want you to be a sales manager and you get promoted to other leadership positions and some people succeed and some people don't. Some people like it and some people don't. Kind of talk a little bit about that, because one of the things that I really admired about your career is that you've stayed in sales, but haven't perennially been a successful salesperson year over year over year. And so, kind of talk to me about like what kind of kept you in that spot and why.
Yeah, I did get promoted into management. It was this typical what you see, top sales guy becomes the manager, right? And it was what I thought I wanted at the time. So I was running my own team and doing my own hiring. And what I found was I could do the job, but I didn't enjoy it.
Mm.
I could get results. I wasn't getting the satisfaction out of it. I found that it was a little bit of a struggle for me to not be the frontline salesperson and to let go. It was a struggle for me to be patient with entry level salespeople that we were hiring and developing them from scratch. There was a confluence of circumstances that I had about a 12-hour window back in 2010 to decide to go back into sales. And I called up my partners, the CEO, president, and my mentor, Tom, at the time. And I said, hey, look, I want to go back into sales. I don't want to be a manager anymore. I'd like to get back and be an individual contributor. Are you guys okay with that? Yes, we are. Great. And that was it. I've been an individual contributor since, and it's just a much better fit for me. I work well with people. I just don't know that I work as well with all of them reporting to me. And
Right,
I've had to learn that and be honest with myself.
right. Well, one of the things I admired is you were working with, with all your experience, you'd work with the people that just start their first job at a school, people who've been there for a while, so varying levels, and you're obviously providing mentorship and that type of thing. What's kind of one lesson you learned the hard way through this whole experience that you kind of keep with you?
Um, where to invest your time, because you get a lot of people as you build a brand and awareness and you get out and network. You get a lot of people that are tugging on your sleeve and they see that you're a frontline salesperson and they all want you to hawk their wares, right? Let's partner. Let's meet up and share leads. And there's some of those that are genuine and they want a two-way street. But I think a lot of them would like to just piggyback off of your efforts. And if it's something that I've got to spend time doing that doesn't retire a quota for my company, it's not a good investment in my time. And I definitely spent a lot of time learning where I shouldn't spend my time. Time being the most valuable thing that any of us will ever have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Rick, as a sales coach, you must hear that all the time, right? Like people are spinning their wheels and skating all over the ice trying to track down, 10 different things from a sales perspective.
So, what's funny, Aaron, is Brad, I won't ask you cold here, but when I ask salespeople, what are you worth per hour? Like, what is the value you place on your time per hour? I'm yet to meet a salesperson that can give me a number, and for that reason, I think they tend to squander a lot of their time, or they don't place a value on it. So, Brad, I mean, you've been doing this a while, but young ones, prioritization, time management, all those fundamentals, especially in a virtual world, are really drastically undervalued, I think, in the whole mix of things. Especially you with a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, and 12-year-old, you got to be a king of time management doing sales. Hey, by the way, sales manager, that's probably the toughest job I ever had, being a sales leader, is we won't get into it maybe today, but there's a reason why some are great sales leaders and some, can't make that step from being a top performer to a manager. You mentioned earlier, you've been at this thing a while, and the industry's evolved, the buyers evolved, the tech's evolved. And you said you had to scale yourself up. Like, what have you done to scale yourself up from where you were to kind of get to where you are now? So if I'm a salesperson listening today, or I'm a sales manager, because I think a lot of people get stuck in, this status quo where they think they're all good. They did the training, that, they got the binder, they did this, and they forget that they work for themselves in the mix of the whole thing. And they, like an athlete, you got to keep getting better. How have you scaled yourself up, like kept yourself, would you say, at the top of your game?
for starters, I've had to learn to move up and start calling on the higher level people in the organization. Now, when you're selling photocopiers in the early 2000s, you're working mostly with purchasing managers and office managers. It's kind of a commodity product. You can differentiate, and you can outwork people and make money. And that's what I did. But you're not meeting with the CEO. You aren't meeting with the managing partner. You're not meeting with the director of marketing. They don't need to speak with you for the company to make a good decision on their office equipment, right? So, but as the business evolved and we started selling more high impact products, document management, ERP systems, we started getting into IT and security. I had to elevate my game, elevate my approach, really think about, okay, if I'm sending an email or calling somebody, that audience, what's it going to take to be different, persistent without being annoying? What's creative? And you got to be yourself. You have to just be yourself. So one person one time told me, when you send an email to somebody, you should send it the way you talk. Do it just like that. Just be yourself. And if you strike out, it's fine, because when you hit, you're already on the right track with somebody. They're going to get what they get. And you're not totally different than what you sound like in the tone of your message. So elevating up. And then I've also had to do I've had to spend a lot of time sitting down with the Aaron Dicks of the world, IT engineers, other people that have a lot of expertise in these services that I was learning to sell. Literally just sitting down, shooting the breeze. We're not talking about a client. Just, hey, I heard this on the call. What is that? How does that work? Why do you do it? What's the value? Who else does it? And just hours and hours and hours of picking people's brains. We did a lot of team selling, so that was beneficial to both parties, because then we can decide together, okay, when we go see this person, here's who's going to say what. I need your help here. And I would just absorb and absorb and absorb. Today, the cold call culture still works. You can cold prospect. I do still do it, but I will tell you that the relationship sale is totally dominant and taken over. People are bombarded with emails and calls. I go on LinkedIn now, and half the stuff is a sponsored advertisement. I can't even see the people I'm following, what they're posting. That's what I really care about, right? You got to really scroll through for a while. So somebody knows somebody, you get a warm introduction, very different conversation, as you both know.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So when you're to that point, then, I mean, how are you guys today, like in your current position, leveraging that sort of sales and marketing relationship, to help you with that from a lead generation standpoint, warm intros, that type of thing?
So I am doing some new market penetration in Wisconsin. I've never worked in that market. Part of this was I've got a non-compete in place that I'm abiding by. It's actually expired now, but for the past year, because I'm from the state and I have a lot of contacts there, what we did was put a campaign together on LinkedIn, and we paid for targeting ads. And it was just a Brad Rozmarynowski and a send warm up to a target audience. Who is he? Let's get his face out there. Let's get some messaging going. Let's get our brand out there. And the message was that I'm the IT expert for the area. I changed, this is something that you may or may not be aware of. I changed my location on my LinkedIn profile from Chicago to United States. And I did that because when you cross the border here from Chicago to Wisconsin, it is an uphill battle to do business. It's pushing a boulder up a hill. The Wisconsin culture likes to do business with Wisconsin people.
Right.
So that tiny change, going out and targeting, warming up the audience. Now I make phone calls and I might say, hey, this is Brad Rozmarynowski. I'm working with a couple of other firms. Have you heard of me before? Maybe you've heard my name tossed around. The answer is, well, I've never heard of you. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not as popular as I thought I was. Or they had seen me on LinkedIn.
Right. Right. Did it work? Were you getting traction? Was the targeted campaign like that?
You know what it does is
specifically, because I haven't seen a lot of reps, like people in that area that would do that specifically individual, right? They rely on the company to do a big cast of net, find me a bunch of opportunities. and I'll wait for someone to, like get the SDR to call 1,000 people and find someone for me to talk to.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to ask marketing to drive leads. I really don't. Because their job is just brand building and maintenance. And then if we need assets and we're going to do a campaign or we have an event or what, that's fine. And they love doing that kind of stuff. Love it. As long as you give them enough runway to actually execute, as we all know. The salesperson's got to do it. The salesperson's got to make that touch. So marketing can help with a warm up, but the actual contact, touch, and the kickoff of an actual buying process has got to come from the sales professional.
We couldn't agree with you more, buddy. That's the number one lead generator. Is this still the human? We think with the tech and all the other good stuff. Hey, I'm curious. What did you do on LinkedIn as you walked into that market? Were you guys like? Was it you on video? Was it you like images of you? How did you paint yourself as a subject matter expert or someone that someone would want to meet with? Like on LinkedIn, what did you do?
So we took some images from the Milwaukee market, some of the iconic images of buildings. They have a Calatrava Bridge there. It's pretty well known, and the museum on the lakefront. And then an image of me with a messaging that I am Wisconsin's IT expert. I'm the top advisor that you can go to for help in southeastern Wisconsin. That's the short answer to your question. Is we just basically branded it all around your location. I'm there. I'm with you. And this is exactly what I do and who I do it for, which was mid-market.
Would you do it again? Would you build on that campaign, or is that like a one and done thing for you? Like, are you going to keep building from a marketing? Because I agree, like marketing is only, we used to talk about this, like marketing is going to get you at bats, right? But someone's got to step up and hit the ball. So like, would you keep building on that sort of approach for being the Wisconsin IT guy, or from a marketing perspective, or now you're leaving it up to the company to sort of just market the brand?
So the paid campaign in LinkedIn to get the initial word out and warm up has ceased.
Okay.
What we've done though is transition now to doing small in-person events, happy hours, lunches, golf, things like that, just to get in with people.
I've seen your golf game. You still golf?
Well, you could call it that. You've seen me play. I'm a double bogey golfer on a good day.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You feel good by the sounds of it, Brad. Hey, how are you getting appointments now? So you're with let's say new logo, new customers. Is there without getting into your playbook? How are you? Because you said earlier about talking at the C level. Couldn't agree with you more. How are you securing those appointments? Are you using technology? Like what do you have a formula or a sequence, or how are you doing it?
So there's a little bit of a mix. Part of it is just asking for introductions. So I have gotten really involved in a few networking groups. And if you show up to those consistently, which I hadn't done prior, I was always a cold prospector for 20 some years.
Yeah.
Or living off of relationships that I built that were originally from a cold prospect. Now I spend a lot of my time out with professional networking groups. I've found a couple that are really good, that have great events and have a lot of high quality people. You meet them, spend some time with them, have a coffee, and then say, look, who can I introduce you to? And one technique that I've learned that works is you go onto their LinkedIn, go to their connections, filter through, find the ones that are most interesting to you that could be potential good meetings, send them over with a hyperlink to their profile to your person, and then ask for a meeting. And then together you walk through, weed out the ones that they've connected with that they don't actually know, get to the ones that they do, take notes on those, and ask for intros and get a handful of meetings out of them. And that has been effective. On the tech side, a combination of tools. So you're familiar with HubSpot. Everybody knows HubSpot. They've been in marketing for more than 5 seconds. Zoom Info, and then 6 Sense. So 6 Sense to go out and find suspicious activity in the marketplace. I shouldn't call it suspicious. Where we suspect that someone might be in the market. Zoom Info is a tool to find contacts, to find contact information. I'm verifying that with LinkedIn to make sure that the person still works there, to make sure that their position is correct. And then using HubSpot to track all the activity tracking emails, tracking opens, tracking analytics. So that's kind of my approach. The company I work at, they don't require that you do X amount of activity in each of these tools. They're like, look, what do you want? Tell us how you want to use it. It's your business. You run it.
So but they're managing all the tech for you, right? So you're going through Zoom info, you're creating all that stuff, you're looking at 6 Sense, and then they're gonna use HubSpot to automate the content, market out your message, that type of thing, help you drive opportunities. So a bit of a work together type thing, or are you doing that yourself?
So I'm in HubSpot myself, using it as my primary CRM.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is different, Aaron. You know, from the past, we used it more, like you were saying, it was operationalized marketing. I'm now in there with my marketing team, building campaigns, building blast emails. If I have an event, we do a landing page together. It's awesome.
Yeah. I think that's dynamite. And what's super interesting about what you're saying that we don't see in other markets is that's the true sales and marketing alignment, right? Like, you guys are really working together. This is what I'm seeing in the field. This is what clients are telling me. How do we build these campaigns? How do we maximize, interest or penetration of a certain market or a certain category? I think that's super unique, Brad, because most people are just say, hey, marketing's not getting me any leads. What's going on? I'm going to have nothing. But you're not putting in the work to work together to get it done, right?
Yeah, he's his own marketing department, Aaron.
And sales, right?
Yeah,
but he's got a team. Like, he's got a team, right? If I hear you correctly, you're working with marketing to create these different things, right? And that's the big disconnect. Like, Rick, we see that all the time, right? Like, whether it's a business owner or a sales manager or whatever, it's like, look, just build me a campaign or create these things, put my logo on this OEM piece of flyer, send it out, and hopefully Brad gets leads. And that's kind of how it works. And that's why in today's world it's not working. And I think the approach that you're taking is super interesting.
Yeah. It's a direct connection to the marketing leadership and her team. There's no guardrails around who you can reach out to. Now, what you do have to do, though, is respect their time, respect their expertise, respect the constraints that they're in. If you do those things, marketing will love you. I mean, they want you to succeed. You have to, and I think, again, Aaron, working with you in the past, I've gotten a good understanding of what it takes to be great at marketing and how you can't make demands that aren't attached to the overall strategy that everybody's been working on. They're rowing the boat really hard in one direction. You can't say, well, now I want to go do this. That's not going to endear you to the team. You're supposed to work together, and that's a two-way street. I built a lot of goodwill there just because I understand that. And I have you to thank for a lot of that. Just understanding the business and what goes into building assets in a campaign. Like, that was a lot of fun to learn that stuff. And so I have an advantage over other salespeople because I know what goes on. I've been to the puppet show and I've seen the strings, so to speak.
Right. Oh, that's cool. I haven't heard it put that way.
Great analogy. Brad, talk to us about AI. Like, you were around before AI, being in the tech sales arena. Could you talk about how your thoughts on AI, maybe how you're using it, and or how the customer's using it on their end from a seller's perspective?
Sure. So whenever I hear AI, the first thing I think of is the fact that it's been around for a lot longer than all the hype. So I think the big thing during COVID was cybersecurity. Well, it's the AI train, right? We're all on that one now. So I'm getting a little fatigue. It's sort of everywhere you turn, that's what you hear. And what I'm not hearing is, how exactly did you use it? Exactly. So what we're doing, we actually have an event next week. We're doing a lunch and learn. And AI is a subtopic from a Microsoft group that's coming in to talk. And what we're doing is we're providing readiness assessments for people that want to implement Copilot into their environment, but aren't sure if they've got the correct parameters, policies, and configurations set up to keep it safe. So we're seeing a little of that. People want to dive in. They know they're supposed to be doing it. They don't know where to start. And what we tell them is, look, if you're going to roll it out and really do well with it, it's not a 90-day project. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. What I'm seeing in the field, instead of companies going and taking an AI platform and building out their own solution from scratch, what they're doing is they're relying on their existing vendors to implement AI in their existing platforms. So law firms with case management, healthcare organizations with appointment setting and appointment management, things like that, where the AI is getting built into a platform. They're already a customer. This is the new version of it. ZoomInfo recently did this I want to say about a year ago, where they put AI into the ZoomInfo platform. When you open it up now, you start with the AI interface. There's a whole bunch of functionality built in. We were already subscribed. I just got that. Right. So I'm seeing that's probably a little bit more practical, because now it scales for a mid-sized organization that can't necessarily pay a consultant to build them something from scratch. So the use cases are starting to, I think, come out of that more so than, well, we identified this thing in the industry.
Right.
We're going to do this ourselves. It's not, I don't know that that's a practical approach today.
Right. We're seeing a lot of businesses obviously doing the same thing, leveraging AI and existing systems to optimize and reduce, the steps and the clicks and the work and the people and cost, right? How are you using AI in your world to be a successful salesperson in this space?
One thing I do is I have ChatGPT open while I'm meeting with a client, because a lot of them are like this, right? It's a video meeting. And if I hear something I don't understand, or if there's something I want to expand on, I pop that in there, get the feed out, keep going with the conversation, and then glance up at the bullets quick to make sure that I can speak intellectually on something, to make sure that I understand an acronym that I heard.
Yeah.
Right? Like that to me is a very simple, useful application, and it keeps me from guessing a little bit.
Will you use it a lot on your for pre-call prep, Brad? Before you meet with somebody?
Yes.
On the front end as well as the call itself? Yeah?
Yes. So I did mention the ZoomInfo a couple of times. They do have a really nice setup there where you can very, very quickly, you literally could get everything you need in 5 minutes and then prompt for some whatever details you want. So yeah, I'm using it in that way. Again, ChatGPT, I might say, I'm meeting with a law firm today that does insurance defense, and I want to know what those firms very specifically face in terms of technology challenges that I could talk with about this client, right? If you know how to prompt ChatGPT really, really well, it'll dial you in nicely with some really good discussion points.
Right. You could look at and show me the competitors and what they're doing and give me specifics and how it benchmarks this firm versus that firm, and look at the leadership team. Like, you could really get specific, especially in that ChatGPT world, to hone your message. So when you're targeting those C-level executives, you're speaking exactly to their challenges and what they're looking for from a business standpoint.
Yep.
I still don't think a lot of salespeople are doing as basic as it is. I don't think they're thinking that way yet, the mainstream. But
that's what we have Brad on. Perennial sales guy. I love it.
No, I think you're probably the perfect mix of, I'll call it a little bit of old school, but a whole lot of new school too. And I think old school has some fundamentals that the new school sellers want to zip past, but they're very important to, plan, prepare. What about what percentage of your meetings, discovery meetings? So you're meeting with, let's say, a new person you haven't met with before in a new company. What percent of your discovery meetings, those type, are virtual versus in person?
Definitely more virtual.
Okay.
And what I find is a lot of that is for the initial, because it may be, let's get together, but let's just make sure that this makes sense first. If we could do a video meeting, I'm sort of cutting my losses if it's not a good fit kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, there are a lot of people that are open to meeting in person. Especially if you're willing to go where they are. So in Chicago, I've got plenty here. I can just drive over and do the meeting. And a lot of them are happy to do that. And I will also tell you, depending on the business, they may have a space that they are dying to bring people over to. Wisconsin, for example, a lot of manufacturing. These are plants full of people and activity. And they love, hey, can I come over for a tour? Come on over. Yeah, they want to show it off.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of a percentage, I'm going to go with 65% virtual, 35% in person for early buying phase meetings.
That's what we hear. 70. Typically, when we ask a business to business sales group, it's 70-30. It depends on metro, rural, of course, but in general, um, the lion's share of that front end is virtual. So
Yeah.
what's the as you move through a cycle, what are some of the objections you're getting right now in today's marketplace, if I may ask, and then how you kind of handling those?
So the services I sell are very high touch and therefore high risk. So if you think of an IT operation in an organization, that is not something you want to disrupt.
Hmm.
So when I'm meeting with prospective clients, I hear a lot of them tell me about things that they don't necessarily like. They're not totally happy with their provider, but I'm not always hearing enough to justify them making a change to me or anybody else.
Hmm.
Some of the complaints I'm hearing, I'll be done with the call and I'll be debriefing with my solutions architect and I'll be like, James, they're being well cared for. There's no reason for them to even be talking to us. At least they shouldn't spend a whole bunch of time on an RFP or taking proposals. It just doesn't, their vendor's doing great. Now, there are plenty of times when that's not the case, and there is plenty of churn in the marketplace. I just talked with the former CRO of Impact, who just recently resigned. Him and I have caught up together, and he said that to me, Brad, you know as well as I do, there's enough going down out there. You just need to be in the opportunities.
Hmm.
So I think there's some resistance unless you're really not doing well and it's really disruptive. So, for example, I had dinner with the CFO of a manufacturer the other day, and there's been enough bubble up to the CEO level, his partner, that the CEO said, when this contract's up, I want these guys out of here. And that's the last conversation they're going to have about it. That one's different, right? There's some politics going on there. Something happened where this guy's just like, look, I don't have time for this anymore. And emotionally, he's checked out. That's a real deal. That one's they're going to change, right? So,
Do you find, Brad, though, like when you're going through this kind of like as you're qualifying essentially, right? Like good conversation, but I don't really feel like you're going to make a change. Great conversation. This contract's up. You guys are going to be looking for a new vendor. I want to be there to help you, right? Like as you kind of go through those different progressions, what do you see people changing for? It's just typically bad experience with current vendor, expansion in existing services? Like what are some of the red flags that you look for that say, okay, this is something I want to go down and say this is a good opportunity for us?
I'm seeing a lot of the industry plagued with turnover. And so what's happening is, IT's got churn, whether you hire them or you outsource it. So there's too many new faces coming in. That's part of it. I also think that the industry is starting to figure itself out and do a better job of being accountable for its own costs. That's changing some of the models around, and some of the models don't fit for clients. For example, there are organizations out there that do unlimited on-site support for any little thing you need. If something gets escalated, they just send somebody out. You don't get a bill for it. Other organizations are like, look, it's almost all remote. If we're going to do that, I have to build that into my deal separate. And that works for some people, doesn't work for others, right? So that's a lot of what I'm seeing. And then proactive. So I might be interviewing the finance person that IT reports to, and I'm asking basic questions like, well, what projects do you have on the table? What's your budget for next year? What are your big capital items coming up? They don't know, and they don't like that. They said, all I'm doing is putting out fires, and I'm constantly having to chase them around to finish the job. I don't feel like that's a good relationship. I want someone that's on top of this. I want a steady state. And I want a strategic conversation once a quarter. I want you to lay my budget out for me. I want you to tell me what headwinds are coming. What are my peers doing? And I don't hear a lot of that out there. So that's an opportunity to make a change and bring in a system that facilitates a much more strategic, proactive type relationship.
Brad, how many years have you been selling?
25.
Okay, 25. So you said you started, I'm sure, with the commercial territory like all of us, knocking on doors and trying to get meetings, and now you did the carousel there as a sales leader, manager, and got off that ride. And now as Aaron described you to me, you're one of the I would say very successful sales professionals in the IT space. And as we kind of wrap up today's conversation, which I really enjoyed, by the way, I can see why Aaron looks up to you. What would you say if you were to give some advice to a younger salesperson that's getting into sales now? Okay, what would you looking in your rearview mirror, what would you say they should consider as a newer seller to get themselves maybe to a position you're in where you're consistently the number one producer, performer, customer engager, whatever within your company?
A few things. Number one, go interview the top salespeople immediately. What are they doing? What works for them? What makes sense? What should I not do? Find a mentor. Now, that might be your manager. It might be somebody else. Find a mentor. Find somebody to help guide you through your time, someone that's been around the block a few times, and take their advice, bounce things off them, and be vulnerable in front of them and tell them where you're screwing up. You got to learn to play the long and the short game. This guy, Todd Culbertson, that used to work with Aaron and I, he's an old school sales guy, and he would say, find the people to close and close the people you find. So have a sense of urgency if someone's in the market and buying. Spend time on that and do it. And do the things that you got to do to make them happy. Be a transparent salesperson. Go above and beyond. Outwork the competition. Some of the other ones take a lot of patience. I had a sales cycle, and I'm not kidding. This was just to sell copiers. It was a 6-year sales cycle. And I did a full assessment, did all the work, lost the deal. And I waited 5 more years after that for that contract to come up, and I took it down the next time around. Like, you have to be willing to play the long game. Making a couple of touches and failing and quitting after that, that's what everybody else does. So your edge can be make a meaningful touch a few times a year, bring them something special, maybe show up when you can. And then the other thing is network. Get out there and don't be afraid to tell people, this is what I do. I need introductions. Can you introduce me to people? You should be able to do that. I don't, and you can do it, and you can give what you have in return. When you're building your professional network up, you don't have as many contacts. Most of your friends, when you graduate college, they're also in entry-level jobs. They're not in a position of power, but that'll change over time. So do what you can, try to be selfless about it. Bring things to people. You don't need to necessarily get anything in return immediately. Build that reputation for being a giver.
Yeah, I think those are great coaching tips. Aaron, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to ask Brad there, but I've really enjoyed the conversation.
No, Brad, this is exactly what I wanted to chat with you about. Congrats on all your success and the things that you're doing, and let's stay in touch. And really appreciate you coming on our show today and just being transparent, being you, and sharing insights. And I think that's the most important thing. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate you hooking up with me. And I'll always say marketing is sales' best friend. So thank you guys very much for having me on.
Thanks for being on the Smarketing Show, buddy. Congrats on what you've accomplished. I'm sure you're an awesome dad as well. And if your kids grow up with your DNA, I'm sure they'll be very successful as well. Thanks again for being on today, buddy.
Thank you.